When Caesar crossed the Rubicon, it was a famous moment in world history. It was a moment in which the Republic of Rome was suddenly under threat, and the whole system that they had, where a Senate made decisions for the country, was challenged by a would-be dictator. It was a specific moment in time when everything changed. He brought a whole army to the river called the Rubicon, and the moment they crossed it, they were in breach of a fundamental agreement by which the Republic had run. No armies were allowed inside Rome. As soon as you brought one into Rome to challenge the authorities, you were threatening the destruction of the entire Republic. Now, Trump's impending destruction of the Republic, that is America, is happening a bit more subtly, but no less certainly. There's several things that he's done in the last week or two that have effectively crossed the Rubicon, that have essentially taken the powers of the presidency beyond anything that is in the Constitution or that has ever been authorized or done before. Now, these are in areas that people often don't hear about or know about, and that's why it's almost being done by stealth. But let's be clear, the Rubicon has clearly been crossed. Firstly, the Federal Trade Commission is an organization that makes judgments about corporations and who is investigated and who is pursued in the courts for wrongful activities that are illegal and against regulations. The FTC contains commissioners from the governing party and also the opposition party. The governing party commissioners will form the majority, and the opposition party commissioners still need to be there as a check and balance. So what they do is, if a decision is made, for example, to investigate a company, the opposition commissioners will also release a report about why they think that investigation should or shouldn't have happened, or why it didn't go far enough. Or if an investigation was dropped, the opposition commissioners can say, well, actually that investigation should have been pursued. This company is in breach and we disagree with the FTC decision on this. So the opposition commissioners play a really important role in checking and balancing the FTC and making sure they do what they're supposed to do and don't show favoritism to certain companies over others. And at least if that happens, then they can ensure that the word gets out to the public and everybody knows what's happening. Trump just fired the Democratic FTC commissioners. So the FTC commissioners who were there actually under Trump's first administration, who he appointed himself, that he just went ahead and fired.
The statute that governs the FTC says that someone who is in your position cannot be fired only if they can be removed for cause if there is neglect, malfeasance, or inefficiency. Were you given any of those reasons when you were fired?
No, absolutely none.
And so what was essentially, was there just any argument whatsoever beyond the letter you received?
The president can fire you, and so he chooses to do so, was the argument.
But you believe that's illegal?
It is absolutely illegal. The statute that you referenced is very clear on its face. And in fact, the Supreme Court has evaluated whether it is a constitutionally valid statute and whether a president can remove an FTC commissioner. Exactly this question. They faced it 90 years ago when FDR tried to remove an FTC commissioner, Commissioner Humphrey. And they said, no, the law is clear. They cannot be removed other than for cause, and that is a constitutional law. And that precedent has not been overturned.
You said something interesting in your statement when you were fired, and you said that you believed, in part, it was because, quote, I have a voice, and he is afraid of what I'll tell the American people.
As you've heard, that is flagrantly in breach of any actual authority of the president. Today, he just announced the abolition of the Department of Education, signing an executive order saying that he's now instructing the Secretary of Education to dismantle that department. He cannot do that. It is only Congress that has the power and authority to dismantle the Department of Education or any department which was created by an act of Congress in the first place. And of course, the role of the Department of Education is actually to send money to the states where there is a high level of poverty, to support schools that need to be invested in to bring them up to a better standard, or where there are pupils with disabilities, to support those schools in order to increase the provision and support for those individuals. This is the kind of thing the Department of Education does, and this is what he's looking to abolish. Something else he did in the last couple of weeks that many more people know about is defy a direct court order. He scooped up a bunch of people that were from Venezuela, put them on a plane and headed them over to El Salvador, where there is known human rights abuses and where when people are jailed, that can sometimes involve torture or worse. And he sent a group of people there saying that they were part of gangs. After some investigation, it turns out that some of them had nothing to do with gangs. There's one person, for example, who came to the US legally, who had committed no crime. And just because he basically had a tattoo, they scooped him up, said he was part of a gang, and sent him on a plane to El Salvador. The courts, when this was challenged, made a very clear verdict. This is unlawful. The plane should be turned around and they should be brought back to US soil. Trump completely ignored that ruling, and the plane went on and took these people to El Salvador.
Sworn declarations filed last night confirmed the Trump administration sent innocent people to rot in prison in El Salvador, including a professional soccer player tortured by the Maduro regime who entered this country legally to seek asylum and has no criminal record in either country. How did this happen? How did a fucking Venezuelan fleeing communism get put on a plane to El Salvador to go to that goddamn dystopia torture camp? How did that happen? How did we do that? We put people with no due process on a flight to one of the most horrific prisons I've ever seen in a foreign country. Had their fucking hair buzzed, put into shackles, put down by like this evil RoboCop looking man, their head down. That's stuff we saw. It's stuff they're showing us. You know, there's a CNN report on this that when the mother of this man saw the picture of him with his shaved head, she started wailing and screaming. Rightfully, how could they do this? This person fled torture to come to freedom. Now here we are torturing him. We're no different than Venezuela. What our government is doing is the same as what Maduro did. This is not acceptable. This is not acceptable.
Again, a direct and deliberate defiance of the authority of the courts and rule of law. What Trump is effectively saying here is that laws don't matter, only what I say matters. That's the difference between a functioning democracy and a dictatorship. In a dictatorship, what the dictator says is the law. He actually said that in a meeting a couple of weeks ago. We are the federal law. He was about to say I am and slightly corrected himself. We are the federal law. That is not how a democracy functions, it's how a dictatorship functions. And now he's actually carrying that out in ignoring rulings of courts and instead proceeding with what he wants to do regardless of whether or not it is within the law. So the Rubicon has now been crossed at several points, and it's important that people know this. It's important that we don't allow the US to sleepwalk away from its democratic norms and into a form of dictatorship. We can't react, we can't resist unless we know what's actually happening. And I'll keep communicating this on this channel in these videos, as well as talking about what can be done both in the short term in our current system and how to change and improve the system to deepen our democracy. But right now, the first salvos in the war against democracy have now been fired. Thank you for watching my video. I'm a psychiatrist. I'm also interested in philosophy and public policy and politics. I aim to make a number of videos about these subjects and particularly the intersection between them. If you're able to like and subscribe to this channel, then it'll really help, and also put in some comments whenever you can. That'll really help the algorithm. It'll really help promote this channel to other people. Now, beyond that, we are all, unfortunately, at the behest of a very small number of people who seem to run everything these days. And we are all at the whim of a tech oligarch who could decide tomorrow to end a channel like this because it's not in their favor. And because of that, I've set up a kind of email newsletter, which you can subscribe to. At the top of the channel, you'll see a web address. Please go there and subscribe to my newsletter. That way you can stay in touch with the videos I'm making. At least we can keep the content flowing. So I hope you can do that. And I hope we can keep talking and also gain clarity, not just about what's happening right now, but how we can get through this, how we can improve things to make a better tomorrow together. Thank you.